Poetry Analysis Project by Miguel Bethencourt, analyzing Shakespeare and Lord Byron. Alright, so the first poem I chose was Sonnet 12, When I Do Count the Clock That Tells the Time, by William Shakespeare. When I do count the clock that tells the time, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, when I behold the violet past prime, and sable curls all silvered o'er with white, when lofty trees I see barren of leaves, which erst from heat did canopy the herd, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard, then of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the waste of time must go, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and die as fast as they see others grow, and nothing against time's scythe can make defense, save breed, to brave him when he takes thee hence. So, what I thought the theme of this poem was that time can bring you both happiness and distress, just basically depending on what stage of life you're in. So the next poem is by Lord Byron, called To Time. Time, on whose arbitrary wing the varying hours must flag or fly, whose tardy winter, fleeting spring, but drag or drive us on to die. Hail thou, who on my birth bestowed those boons to all that yet know thee know. Yet better I sustain thy load, for now I bear the weight alone. I would not one fond heart should share the bitter moments thou hast given, and pardon thee, since thou couldst spare all that I love, to peace or heaven. To them be joy or rest on me, thy future ill shall press in vain. I nothing owe but years to thee, a debt already paid in pain. Yet even that pain was some relief, it felt, but still forgot thy power. The active agony of grief retards, but never counts the hour. In joy I've sighed to think thy flight would soon subside from swift to slow. Thy cloud could overcast the light, but could not add a night to woe. For then, however, drear and dark, my soul was suited to thy sky. One star alone shot forth a spark, to prove thee, not eternity. That beam has sunk, and now thou art a blank, a thing to count and curse. Through each dull, tedious, trifling part, which all regret, yet all rehearse, one scene even thou canst not deform, the limit of thy sloth or speed, when future wanderers bear the storm, which we shall sleep too sound to heed. And I can smile to think how weak thine efforts shall shortly be shown, when all the vengeance thou canst wreak must fall upon a nameless stone. Alright, so the theme of this poem I thought was that time can be a burden. So I will first be analyzing Sonnet 12. And so what I just highlighted the stuff that I thought was important. So I'll just start with, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night. So this quote, the connotation changes from positive when he says brave day to negative when he says hideous night. So he's saying that he dislikes when time changes on him from day to night so quickly, and also the part where he says, and sable curls all silvered o'er with white. He's saying with that line means that the black hair is being it's gray. It's getting gray hairs. So basically, what he's saying is that that as time goes by, stuff tends to get worse. And so the next quote I used was, "When lofty trees I see barren of leaves." So this line was interesting because of the imagery that it used, using the lofty tree. Going from having a lot of leaves to having no leaves at all. So this means that as time goes by, it brings death with it, as seen in the past quote where it says that the black hair it started getting gray hairs. So the theme of the poem was that it can bring joy and sorrow at times, and at this point that would be a time of sorrow, as opposed to that he likes the brave day, and that means that's part of the joyous part of the theme. Alright, so next is, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard. So this quote was, I found it interesting because of the connotation that it uses, because the quote, so that it means that when summer's crop is all bundled up, it looks like a dead man all bundled up. So the connotation is obviously negative, because talking about a dead man isn't exactly a very bright and cheerful thing to talk about. So he's describing that as time goes by, this would be another time of when time would be a somewhat a negative thing as opposed to a positive thing. So the next thing I used was time's scythe as a symbol for death, because it symbolizes the passing of time and how eventually everyone will die. But in opposition to that, the part where it says save breed, that means except for having children. So you can outlast death by having children, which is, I thought that the having children part sort of connected to his wife and him, because they wanted to live on through their children. And going back to the part where it says, "Then of thy beauty do I question make," I thought that he was referring to his wife Anne, and how he wishes that she were to stay beautiful forever, and like sort of withstand the test of time. And there's also a little sort of underlaying theme here about seasons. When he's saying summer, he could be poking at some symbolism. So because you know how spring is, it's usually associated with like a time of prosperity and birth, while winter is more of like the time of death and like withering. Moving on to my to the next poem. I did this poem in two parts, the first half and the second half, and so I'll start with the first half. So, to begin with, time in this poem is being represented as sort of like a person, because it's being personified throughout the entire thing. And also, this poem could be considered, like the structure of this letter indicates that it could be a letter, considering like title itself would be the greeting of the heading of the letter, and it's sort of just written as like a letter to time, as the title suggests. And also it could be considered an elegy, because he's lamenting time like all the way throughout the poem. So continuing on, the whole section where it says, that starts with, "But drag or drive us on to die, all the way through the bitter moments thou hast given." That part was interesting to me because of the tone that it gives off. It gives us a very serious and sort of depressing tone, because he uses words like die, bear the weight, and bitter. So this also relates back to the theme because like time, it could be considered a burden, and here he could be like literally talking about he's bearing that burden. He's bearing the burden's weight alone. So that's what I thought that meant. So skipping down to a debt already paid in pain. So the part where the whole section after the part I just talked about, he's talking about how time has it's killed off basically all of his loved ones, and so he's basically alone now. And since he says a debt already paid in pain, this is basically saying that since time has made Byron feel pain, since he's been alone so many years, that he's giving us somewhat of an aggressive feeling in this line. Because of this aggression, you can tell that Lord Byron is tired of dealing with time and sees it as, again, a burden. Alright, so the second part of this quote is a little bit longer, and I will start with, "The active agony of grief retards but never counts the hour." So that part, the agony of grief is all the pain that time has caused it, and the word retards, it means sort of like delay or sort of stretch out. So time is stretching, it's making that grief like extend longer than it should, and so he's giving a negative that's sort of like the word grief gives off a negative connotation, like almost as if scolding time for giving him all this pain. So next is, I found some symbolism in the lines like cloud could overcast the light but could not add a night to woe. So the symbolism is that time could be considered a cloud that casts over everything good in life, since time has like killed off all of his loved ones, which is everything good in life. And so that just proves that, well, it's just sort of reinforcing the theme that time is a burden. Alright, so next is the connotation of dreary and dark, which is negative because it adds to the dark and heavy nature of the poem. Just sort of like, so the negative connotation adds to the theme because like the tone in this part is like really dark and sort of heavy in nature. Because of just the words dreary and dark. Alright, so next is through each dull, tedious, trifling part. So this part I thought was interesting because of the connotation that dull gives me, which is the impression of like a melancholy feeling, because the word dull sort of is like a gray word, if you know what I mean. So that's sort of like what the mood is, because it's like just, because time is like a pain in the butt, and he's saying that like he's just tired of it. And so next is the section that starts with, "When future wanderers bear the storm, which we shall sleep too sound to heed." So this section has some symbolism to it. where sleep means death, and what he means in these two lines is that he says, in the future I will be dead, and I will be and since I am dead, time will not matter to me because I am dead. So basically, this part gives me the feeling that he's glad that he doesn't have to think about time anymore, proving the theme correct, that he's gotten that burden off of his shoulders. And so also the nameless stone. The nameless stone is like a gravestone, and so it just adds to the part where he says where he's too asleep to hear. Alright, so in conclusion, as you can probably tell, the central theme of both of these poems was time. In Shakespeare's, time was looked at as something that could give you much joy or much sorrow, as indicated by the types of connotation and symbolism in the poem. In Lord Byron's poem, time was looked at as something that brought much pain. You could tell by the melancholy mood of the poem, the certain symbols that were given, and the negative connotations that were found throughout the poem completely. This is my works cited, and thank you for watching this video.